Greetings, greetings of peace and love. I'm Reverend Lori Cardona. I'm here with Reverend Lisa Benton. Hey, Lisa. Together, we are presenting today Mystic Conversations. Miracles with a Twist has this added twist. On the first Thursday of every month, I present A Course in Miracles from an interfaith perspective. And on the third Thursday of every month, my guest, Gotti Lisa, is here to discuss with us a mystic that she has found to be very helpful on her spiritual path. And then we look at how it can be comparable to A Course in Miracles. And so I'm really excited today about discussing the mystic Rumi. But we will begin with a prayer. So let's all take a nice deep breath together. Exhale, hands on our hearts. So give thanks for this opportunity to be together, to be joined, mind to mind, heart to heart, soul to soul, opening our hearts and our minds to the way of the mystic, knowing that we would like to walk as the mystics walked, being so closely connected to the divine, seeing the divine in everyone that we look at, speaking for the divine, feeling the presence of the divine. We give thanks for all the mystics that we discuss during our time together. We give thanks for the reluctant mystic Helen Schuckman, who brought us A Course in Miracles, and for her very dedicated helper, companion, Bill Thetford, knowing that they too are mystics and we are mystics. We all have the opportunity to rise higher, pray harder, love steadily, and forgive readily in all that we do and all that we know, all that we don't know, all that we are going to know. We open our minds, we open our hearts, and we give thanks for all of it. And let's take another nice deep breath together and exhale into this moment of connection. Hi, Gotti Lisa.
Hello, Revlo. Wonderful to see you as always.
Nice to see you, all brand new with your new hair.
All brown, yeah. No more
anniversary. Happy anniversary.
Thank you very much, and happy Mother's Day for you and Cheekies.
You and your wonderful husband, my brother, on this path. How many years now?
Well, we've actually been together for 44, but Saturday was our 40th, 39th, something. Sir, we moved in together in 80 and we got married in 85. So it was our since 85 wedding anniversary on Saturday. There's so many years.
You can celebrate everything. You can celebrate the day you met.
Yes, and we do. So it's pretty cool.
Celebrate everything. I love that about you.
Yeah.
So, we're talking about Rumi today, and I love Rumi. So tell us a little bit about the mystic definition and about Rumi specifically.
Okay. And the reason that Rev Lowe is saying that, she wants to hear a little bit wants me to talk about what our idea of a mystic is because there are so many mystic definitions, ideals, all that kind of stuff. And so we have to kind of hone in for the purpose of talking. It's our conversations. It's not to say that someone isn't a mystic that we don't use or whatever, but this is what we use. And it is, we believe that a mystic is someone who finds themselves in an ecstatic state of spiritual consciousness and connection to the divine. They come from all walks of life and religions and backgrounds, and sometimes no religion at all. We also believe that a mystic is someone who seeks this divine connection on a regular basis and incorporates spirituality into every aspect of their life. And quite honestly, I think that and you said this in your opening meditation, that we're all mystics. We're all on a mystic's path. We may be unaware of it. We may be farther along than others, whatever, but we are on a mystic's path. And for me, this is just such a great experience to be able to maybe learn a little bit more about mystics that I've known about, or to learn about a new mystic, or find out that somebody, wow, fits our definition perfectly, and I never even thought about it. So anyway, today we are going to be talking about Rumi. And many people have heard of Rumi. And many people, like myself, knew Rumi without knowing Rumi. And my experience with getting to know Rumi, and I'll just back up a little bit and just let everyone know from where he came. He's a 13th century poet and philosopher and theologian and Sufi. And Sufism is the mystical portion or side of Islam. So he's a Persian 13th century, most people say poet, but he's far more than that. So anyway, many people have heard of him, and many people have heard of him without ever knowing that they did. Me. When I went to seminary, Sacred Journey Interfaith Seminary, my dean, Lori, our other dean and co-founder, Rev Grace Telesco, said during one of our classes, as Rumi said, how am I to become polished if I am annoyed by every rub? And I'm like, that's so me. And where have I heard that before? Because I know I've heard it. And I asked her, again, Rumi? And she said, yes, R-U-M-I. I'm like, R-U-M-I? I see that all the time. I know this guy, even though I didn't know this guy. But he's everywhere. And many people say that some of this, that he's plagiarized a lot. People in his poetry and his quotes and so forth are plagiarized. But they're the truth. They're not plagiarized. There's different ways of saying something that has reached you. And all the mystics that I've researched and checked out and heard about come down to, and you spoke of this in your meditation this morning too, that it's a passion, a desire, a yearning to connect with the divine. And that's what mysticism is. And people do this in different ways. But I believe that that's what we're all trying to do, is to be connected with this higher power, this God, whatever we want to call it, nature, love, whatever. So I believe many people have heard a lot about Rumi, but I don't. And so I'm not going to sit here, because I could quote Rumi all day. He speaks of love in such a way that it is beyond intimacy with a person. It's an intimate, or even with a pet or nature, whatever. It's a divine connection, a oneness that is love when Rumi writes. At least that's what I feel. That's what I hear. And I believe that was his goal, was to get that to people, that we are one with the divine, which makes us one with everything. So, and to that end, I don't know if everybody knows, who knows Rumi, knows that he has been the one that is considered to be the founder of the whirling dervishes. And these are the Sufis who spin, and they wear the white gowns, and they spin and they spin and they spin. Well, a dervish is a Sufi, just for definition's sake. And whirling, of course, is literally whirling. And I think many people have seen whirling dervishes, or have even said, oh, I was running around the house like a whirling dervish, and doesn't even know what a whirling dervish is, but it's a whirling something. So anyway, he at one time had a friend who was like a hermit-like guy, but he was also he was a goldsmith, and he was going to visit him. And as he was going towards the shop, he could hear the hammering of the gold, the hammering. And he began to kind of just walk with it. And he's walking with it and he's walking with it. And he just seemed to lose himself in what appeared to be the music of the hammer hitting the gold. But in fact, it turned out that he was becoming immersed in his divine connection with God, because he began to whirl and whirl and whirl and came out of this whirling and whirling. He didn't hear a hammer, he didn't hear anything, he just felt one with God, one with the divine. And he had this ecstatic jumping for joy for everyone around him and his future students to listen to him, to know that there are ways that you can connect with the divine. And it's you, in his opinion, whirling was a part of it, because that's what happened to him. He didn't do it, it did it. God whirled him right up, and he began this whirling dervish group. He taught people how to do it. They would meditate and fast and prepare themselves in prayer, and then be praying, and then just letting themselves go. And God picks them up and whirls them around and whirls them around, and some faint, some jump for joy. I mean, it's just amazing. And the very cool thing is, and I'm sure there's been stuff that's been westernized perhaps, or modernized since Rumi, but we can still go see whirling Sufi whirling dervishes who have been trained. Their training can go back to Rumi, and that is in Turkey and in Istanbul, and you can go and see them. And to me, it's just an amazing thing. It's a step-by-step way of connecting with the divine. And I know for me, as a student and sometimes teacher of A Course in Miracles, I need those steps. I really do need those steps. And so I think that's just the whirling dervish method of connecting with the divine may sound a little odd, like if I spin around enough, will I connect with God? I can't promise you will, but you know what? I can't promise you won't. So I just wanted to share that my personal experience really with Rumi, because I was someone who knew Rumi before I even knew Rumi. And since, of course, seminary and learning about the whirling dervishes and meeting a Sufi and all that, I just wanted to share that, because it shows me and it instills in me that I'm on the right path in my belief that we all have the ability to connect with the divine. Whatever we want to call it, it doesn't even have to be called a mystic or anything. We all have this power to connect with the divine, and we just do the best we can. And for me, reading more and learning more about the mystics, I'm finding more and more and more that they're all just saying, it's all God. We are all God. And I just love that. And just as a little aside here with Sufis, we hear, particularly in this time, we hear so much about Islam, and we see so much ugly with Muslims, and we're told so many untruths and so forth. The Sufism, the mystical portion of it, is just so beautiful. And so, I mean, in their actions, they are actually into interfaith, which is something that really connected me with them. They are not exclusive. They believe in dialogue and relationships with all kinds of religions, which, let's face it, some of our larger religions just aren't that way. And Islam is one of them, the Abrahamic religions. So I think that's a big deal when it comes to Sufis. And I think that Rumi was the epitome of a person who was a guy. He was an affluent guy, but he was just a guy. We've seen many people in different ways of life through the past few months. But that helps me to see that, you know, it can be anybody. It is everybody. We just have to step into it or whirl into it. So.
I did not know that part about learning to whirl in order to be connected to the divine. I thought the whirling dervishes were so in full state of bliss that they began to whirl, which is how it started with Rumi. But I didn't realize that he then taught people that by going into the whirl, you could have that mystic experience. So that's an interesting tidbit that I wasn't familiar with, because I think that when you do have these amazing sort of spiritual, mystical, religious experiences, you can, you know, just feel like, wow, I'm no longer even in my body. You know, I'm having this out of body experience, and you know, whirling just seems like one way to deal with the energy. You know, kind of like, you know, like, you know, little animals, they seem to know how to do it. You know, they shake
Sure.
bodies, you know, and you know that that's how they're dealing with energy. um I just want to clarify something you said when you mentioned Islam. It's not that Islam has gotten a bad rap, and you know, in several years. And one of our dearest friends and mentors and associates and advisors is the Sheikh Shafayat, who is one of the interfaith leaders and the leader of a local mosque, who had a stroke this week, and we have been in deep prayer for him. And he's not a Sufi, but he definitely is Sufi-ish. You know,
Yes.
his I shouldn't say his brand of Islam, because he's very dedicated to Islam, but he's very interfaith. He's very open to the interfaith way. He welcomes people to the mosque, and he's been a wonderful supporter of the seminary. He gets up and does the Islamic call to worship when we have our
Coordination.
ordinations. And he's a beautiful spirit, beautiful man, and I just wanted to take this moment to remember that he does need our prayers right now, that he is in the hospital. Reverend Grace Telesco has been there to visit him. I'm not in the area right now, so I have not been able to go, but let's just have a moment of sending our love to him. And we pray that he finds peace in body, mind, and spirit, he and his family as well. So thank you for that peek into Rumi. I think that anybody who Googles Rumi will find a way to learn more about him, and certainly to read some of his amazing poetry. Um, there is an opening to A Course in Miracles that has been up for discussion around in course communities and in Sufi communities, which is really interesting. So I wanted to start with that. It's the very introduction of A Course in Miracles. The introduction to the text says, "This course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance." So when we talk about, you know, we can all be mystics, we are all sort of mystics in hiding in a way, because we have that potential. We're born spirits encased in a body, And so it's a matter of how deeply do we in this body want to find that whirling dervish moment? How deeply do we want to connect to the divine so we do feel the bliss, so we do have that holy instant, so that we do remember that it's not just about this time and space experience. And so the Course tells us right in the beginning, this Course is about removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, because love is always present. It is whether or not we see it, feel it, know it, connect with it. So, what's the controversy? Well, let's say what Rumi had to say, according to legend. Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all barriers within yourself that you have built against it.
And there you go. Classic.
Who said it
Classic.
first? So, interestingly enough, so Sufi is Sufism is ancient. Rumi is 13th century. Course in Miracles is modern.
20th century.
Sufi and Rumi scholars have not been able to find that quote. Now, it came up in course discussion, and this is kind of funny because I belong to several online course discussion groups where I just observe their discussions. I generally don't engage in them. I'm just interested to see. So somebody in one of the course groups put on there, this course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. A Course in Miracles introduction. Well, somebody said, you need to quote properly the great Sufi poet Rumi. So then they put the Rumi quote, which I also just read. Now, the reason I think that's funny is because it went into extensive argument on there. And my temptation was to write the Rumi quote, how will you ever be polished if you are annoyed by every rub? How will I ever be polished if I'm annoyed by every rub? Is this really what we need to be arguing? Who said it first, Rumi or I mean, if you want to say Jesus, because if Jesus is truly the voice of the spirit, then we can go beyond Sufism. But that's not the argument we want to get into, because the Course tells us in chapter 8, it says it so clearly, and we could be shouting it from the rooftops. It says, knowledge is not the motivation for learning this course. Peace is. Yeah. Peace is. Knowledge is not the motivation for anything that we do that gets us into an argument with anyone else. The knowledge is amazing and wonderful and interesting for our own enhancement of our own spirits, of our expansion of our minds, expansion of our hearts, to be understanding of other people, to integrate our lives with the ways of others, but not to be adversarial, not to say, I'm right and you're wrong. It is not the reason that we have knowledge. It's not the reason why we have religion. It's not the reason why we have mysticism. Peace is. Right. Peace is our goal. And so A Course in Miracles and Rumi are very compatible, because Rumi was not teaching Islam or Sufism. It was almost like Jesus was not teaching Christianity. Yeah. You know, they became the embodiment of their love for the divine, of their connection with the divine, and they couldn't help but be examples of it in the way they lived their lives. And so I find that Rumi and Jesus are brothers. You know, it's interesting because there have been books written about Jesus and Buddha. Two different authors, Thich Nhat Hanh is one, and Gary Renard is another. But hey, maybe you and I should get together and write a book of Jesus and Rumi, because I find them so compatible. When I read Rumi and I read A Course in Miracles, I find them so compatible. But we have to, but that argument that I found online of course students being so upset about who is right about this course, I said, it says the same thing. It says the same thing. It says that with whether whether it was Rumi or Jesus or Helen or Bill, whoever it was, the message is the same, that within us is love's presence. Within us is love's presence. And what we do in this world as we walk through it, as we talk through it, as we argue through it, is we create more and more blocks to love's presence, to the awareness of love's presence. So our task is to remove the blocks to the awareness of love's presence. Ken Wapnick himself said, this course is not just for learning, it's for living. Let's not just learn this course, let's live this course. And so if we're deeply involved in the connection to the divine, and we have a holy instant, and we want to get out and whirl and twirl, well then let's be whirling dervishes, because that is a joy. It's an awe-inspiring joy, to be able to move out of the moment of upset, of disconnection with other people, whatever it is that's going on in our lives. If we can just be in gratitude for what it is that is in this moment. You once taught us that in another group meeting about, just how do we just recognize what is for me in this moment? What is for me? What can I give thanks for? What can I connect to, so that I can be in awe of that? And then to remember that that comes from the divine. That is our divine connection, the holy instant. A Course in Miracles speaks about the holy instant, and that's that moment in time when we can separate from our ego. In Sufism, it's that thing which causes us to whirl. And in Hinduism, it's Shaktipat. It's those moments of bliss when we're so deeply connected. And then the phone rings, or the horn honks, or or the argument. Somebody reminds you of something they don't like about you. Whatever it is that brings you back into your judgments, your expectations, your fears, whatever it is that blocks your awareness to love's presence. That's what the course is all about, and that's what we're here for. In chapter 12, I wanted to read something that came to mind when we talked about Rumi. This is chapter 12, the Holy Spirit's curriculum, and it talks about looking within. It says, when you want only love, you will see nothing else. When you want only love, you will see nothing else. The power of decision is your freedom. It is your freedom. It is your one true, absolute free will. That if we want to see love in every situation, every opportunity, to be able to say that, what, this relationship was upsetting, but I can give thanks for it. I can bless it because I learned something more about myself. This situation, the way we see the world, there's so many things that are upsetting. There's hardships. There's so many things that we can say, how can I add some love, some light, some goodness? How can I see myself as someone who has the capacity to bring love and light into the world, as opposed to someone who's going to get online and argue who said it, or argue a point that just brings us back into those blocks that keep us out of the awareness of love's presence, because the world is insane. This is the insane asylum of the universe right here.
The Course uses the word insanity all the time, and I think it upsets some people, but to me, it's like, yes.
Well, I actually looked it up. I did a word search, and I'll talk about that, because I did a word search on insanity, forgiveness, and love in A Course in Miracles, and it's close to 300 times that it comes up. Why? Because if we can see that so much of what we're involved in, when we get deeply argumentative or deeply upset about someone's opinion or what somebody posted, and to realize that it is just an opportunity for you to see that you have created a block to the awareness of love's presence. Because if you're upset by every rub, how are you ever going to be polished? And
Right.
so the robes, we can actually think of the robes as a good thing. Oh, thank you. In the Jewish scripture, there's a story of women who went to see a blacksmith or a silversmith, I think it was. And the analogy was about how the silver had to be pounded and burnt. How do you get silver to be molded? You have to burn it, you have to polish it and burn it and break it and it's like then it becomes a thing of beauty. And
Yeah.
that's so much about us, our spirit. Oftentimes we say, why did this happen to me? Well, it happened because you need it. We all need whatever it is that takes us on that bumpy, broken road to find our way through, so we know what we're made of and we know how we can rise above it. Rise higher, pray harder, because you can love steadily and forgive readily. And the only way you're going to do that is to find out what you're made of, to be presented, with whatever it is that life brings us, so that we can see, all right, I'm just getting polished. That's all this rub is.
Yep.
It's just giving me the opportunity to be polished. So yeah, so thank you for Rumi, and thank you to Helen and Bill. Thank you for A Course in Miracles. I think we should get started on that book, doing a comparison
Yes.
between Jesus and Rumi. Definitely
Yeah.
brothers, definitely are brothers. And I'm so grateful for all of them, and I'm grateful for you, and I'm grateful for this Miracles with a Twist community, because we're not caught up in dogma. We really just want to walk the talk and do the best we can, and learn whatever it takes within ourselves to continue being dedicated to this very sacred path. So thank you so much for your reminder that Rumi was a whirling dervish. And you know what? Let's all be whirling dervishes today.
Yeah.
Let's just
Yeah.
go out there and find the joy and the bliss from the awe of this divine connection. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you. There's just, when you were talking about just everything you were saying was making me think of every mystic and every person basically that I've studied along my way, has said, I'll never become polished if I'm annoyed by every rub. And
Yeah.
what came to me, because I know that you were at Plum Village at one time with Thich Nhat Hanh, God
Yes,
rest
it
his
was.
soul. But he said, no mud, no lotus. And that's the same thing. No mud, no lotus. If you don't have that schmutz and stuff that's annoying all the time, you would not have that beautiful lotus come up out of that. And that reminded me of Rumi, and everything was reminding me of everything, which reminds me of the mystic's path and the
Yes.
mystics, because everyone is trying to just let others know what they know, share what they share, that we are one, and it's just a blessing. So
It really is. And when you said that about the lotus, it's such a beautiful phenomena, that lotus is such a beautiful plant, and it grows best in mud. It grows best
yes,
in the worst of conditions. So that
yes,
can be true
yes.
of us as well.
Um,
So just a reminder, I think that we talk about Miracles with a Twist. It's a portion of LMC Interfaith Ministries, and you always try to remind me that I should mention
yeah.
that LMC Interfaith Ministries has a number of programs and services that we provide. One of which is Miracles with a Twist and the Mystic Conversations. We also do monthly gatherings on the beach, and this month we'll be meeting on Wednesday. That's May 22nd, and in Lauderdale by the Sea at 7 o'clock, and we're going to be honoring Mother Earth, and mothers in general. And we look forward to seeing people there. You can find us on YouTube as well as on Facebook. So Facebook is Miracles with a Twist and Mystic Conversations. YouTube is Rev Lori Cardona / Miracles with a Twist. But I have found that if you go to YouTube and just put Miracles with a Twist or Mystic Conversations, we'll come up. So that's how you find us. If you haven't found us, and I'll start putting it in the newsletter as well. So next month we have an interesting twist to Miracles with a Twist and Mystic Conversations. We're going to talk about the reluctant atheist mystic, Helen Schuckman herself. So I really look forward to that. That's going to be an interesting conversation.
Sure
And that's
is.
going to be on Thursday, June 20th. So thanks again, Gadi Lisa, if you can send us off with a prayer.
I would love to send us off with a prayer. I am going to actually provide a little bit of kind of prose poem from our buddy Rumi.
Great.
It's really intense, and I think it's just something that we can all use now. And I'm going to post it in comments because to me, it's just something to really meditate on. Reading it at face value can make you think, what? But a lot of stuff can do that. So I'm going to put it in comments, and I'm going to suggest that people read it and meditate on it and what it really means to them inside.
Okay. Good, very good.
And it's called The Guest House. This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy and a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house, empty it of its furniture, still treat the dark honorably. He may be cleaning you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from above, beyond. And to me, each has been sent as a rub to polish you.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Thank you,
Excellent.
everybody. And thank you, Rev Lowe. It's wonderful. And I say goodbye.
Hi, God bless.